For more on this love fest in Philadelphia, let's bring in Joe Trippi, a former campaign manager for Howard Dean and a Fox News contributor. Chip Saltsman is former campaign manager for Governor Mike Huckabee's 2008 presidential campaign and former chair of the Tennessee Republican Party. So, gentlemen, welcome. Thanks for being with us. Headline in the Hill newspaper today, Chip, says GOP wants Trump to get in sync. Are there arguments? Are there, discussions about the left hand not knowing what the right hand is doing in the Republican Party right now?
Well, not surprisingly, I think from his speech today, I'm pretty sure the president wants the GOP to get in sync with him. And he laid out a fairly ambitious plan over his 20 or so minute speech and really laid out a lot of things that he wants to accomplish. And remember, this is a CEO type of guy, big ideas, big personality. He's going to throw these ideas out to his, quote, board and let them work on the details. But he definitely said what was important to him, and that's where he's moving.
Well, and that's why Paul Ryan, Joe, has said he wants to have a first 200-day agenda because they've got so much to do. Tax reform is part of it. They also want to have a repeal and replace Obamacare bill or law ready to go by the end of February, maybe into March. They do have a lot of big plans. Can they accomplish them?
Well, I think really what you're saying, Chip's right. I think what you're seeing is the difference between, Donald Trump, CEO, he's used to walking in. If he wants to buy the Doral Country Club, he tells his team, go buy it, and they do. And it happens pretty quick if that's what he wants done. You've got that versus a bunch of people like Paul Ryan, McConnell, and others on the Hill who are willing to try to get this agenda through, but understand that in a government, particularly where in the Senate they have 52 votes, there's got to be an order to things. You can't do Obamacare without figuring, you got to do that first before you get to taxes, things like that. So it's going to be, that's the mix here, I think, that's holding things back.
Easier to move the Trump organization than it is the U.S. Senate. Back with our discussion in just a moment. Back now with Joe Trippi and Chip Saltsman. Chip, when you look at the list of agenda items that this new president has put forward, he criticized the sequester, the 3-year-old program that badly cut the Pentagon's budget. Says he wants to build a wall along the Mexico border. Says he wants a big infrastructure program. How do you pay for those things, or are you bothered by the prospects?
Well, I think it's going to be the biggest challenge he's got. Like I said, he's the big CEO. He tells them what they want, and there's going to be what they want, and then how to do it. Everybody wants infrastructure. How do you pay for it? There's up to trillions of dollars in infrastructure. It's his honeymoon time. Republicans control both houses, but they've got to figure out a spending plan when they talk about all the ambitious plans that he has that make sense for the budget and make sense for the projects that they want to get done.
All of these headlines, Joe, describe this discord between the Congress, especially Republican members of Congress, and the new president. But there was an awful lot of applause in that room when he was at the microphone.
Oh, no, look, I think there's a lot of support in both the House and the Senate for his agenda. I think it gets down to the order of how you do this and how you pay for a lot of it. You can't, you've got it's easy to say we're going to have, I want tax cuts and I want a $1 trillion infrastructure plan. Now, the legislation to do that, let's argue that it's possible. I'm not arguing against it or for it. But the legislation to do those two things that are easy to say is up to now. How does McConnell and Paul Ryan get that through to law? And that legislation is very complex, and it's going to take a lot longer than President Trump believes it's going to take. Again, getting back to his ability as a businessman doesn't necessarily transfer to how things work in government. Getting real about that is going to be important.
He ran a different kind of campaign. He is a different kind of president, clearly, and maybe members of Congress from both parties are going to have to get used to a different way of doing things, Chip.
Oh, I don't think there's any doubt. And look, I think, somebody that ran against Donald Trump and understood that every time he did something different, we'd say, well, that's the end of his campaign. And then he got better at it. We eventually said he's thrown out the playbook, and maybe so should we. And I think if you're trying to deal with him through kind of the typical prism of what a president usually does, you're going to lose this fight. He plays by a different set of rules. He plays by his rules, been very successful, and he's going to be doing that in the first 100 days, 200 days, first 4 years.
Chip Saltsman and Joe Trippi. Thanks for your insights.
Thanks,
We'll
John.
be with you.